When my hairstylist halted mid-cut and softly murmured, "Don't react, stay completely calm," I honestly assumed she'd misjudged something small about my haircut. But when she leaned nearer and whispered again, "That man who stepped inside moments ago has been trailing you lately. I've spotted him waiting outside 3 separate times this week." I suddenly understood the reflection capturing her attention in the mirror wasn't mine. It was his looming presence. And what I uncovered during the next tense 20 minutes showed someone had been shadowing me for months. And my stylist's sharp awareness saved me from a planned abduction attempt entirely. My name is Brooke Ashford. I'm 32 years old and currently working as a real estate agent in Nashville, Tennessee. The woman who ultimately protected my life was Nina Castillo, a hairstylist I trusted for nearly 6 months at a salon located in the Gulch neighborhood. We weren't exactly close friends. It's just that familiar connection you form naturally with someone who regularly handles your hair appointments. But Nina noticed something crucial that I completely failed to recognize myself. And her fast thinking, plus her bravery, absolutely prevented what police later confirmed would have been a kidnapping or something far worse waiting afterward. Before we dive deeply into this entire situation, tap that subscribe button and leave a comment telling me where you're watching this story from. I genuinely love hearing from all of you. I work as a real estate agent here in Nashville. It's an extremely competitive housing market, and I've been doing this demanding work for 7 years now since leaving a corporate marketing job that was slowly suffocating every part of my energy and motivation. Real estate is chaotic work with unpredictable hours, managing complicated listings nonstop, doing evening property showings, and scheduling weekend open houses for serious buyers. But I genuinely love the independence it brings and the feeling of helping people secure homes. I live alone in a 2-bedroom condo in East Nashville, which I purchased 3 years ago. I felt unbelievably proud when I finally closed on that property. Owning real estate within Nashville, where prices constantly climb higher, felt like a massive personal achievement. She's a teacher, and we're extremely close, even though we don't see each other nearly as often as we'd prefer. We talk many times each week by phone and visit at least once every month together. Our parents retired to a tiny Tennessee town near the Smoky Mountains, and I try visiting every few months, usually bringing Maya along so it becomes a sister's weekend for both of us to reconnect together. I've been single about 8 months now after ending a 2-year relationship. I've been on occasional dates since then, but haven't met anyone truly interesting or meaningful yet. Most of my social life revolves around coworkers and a small handful of friends from my previous marketing job days. And I have season tickets to our local soccer team with Jordan, who is my best friend and constant supporter. A good life, busy of course, but still genuinely good overall. About 6 months back, I started going to a salon called Style House, located in the Gulch. My previous stylist moved away to Atlanta, and a coworker recommended Nina Castillo to me. She said Nina was incredible with both color and cuts, so I decided to book her. I've been visiting Nina every 6 weeks now for trims and highlights. We've developed that easy, comfortable relationship you naturally get with a talented stylist, where you can chat freely about life or simply sit quietly in relaxed, peaceful silence. Nina's in her late 30s, runs her own chair at the salon, and always seems extremely attentive to tiny details. She remembers small things I mention about life and asks follow-ups whenever I return for another appointment with her again. The day everything shifted was a Thursday early in October. I had a 4 o'clock appointment booked with Nina and squeezed it between a 2 o'clock property showing and a 6:30 client dinner meeting to discuss their potential offer on a house. It had been one of those exhausting weeks with nonstop showings, property closings, and multiple frustrating clients who couldn't decide anything at all. I genuinely looked forward to that single hour in Nina's chair as a small break from the chaos swallowing me. You know that comforting feeling when someone else briefly takes care of you for a change? That's exactly what getting my hair done felt like, just one quiet hour to sit still while someone else Handled everything. I had no idea that appointment was truly about to completely save my life from danger. I had no idea someone had been quietly watching me for weeks, learning my regular schedule, planning something undeniably terrible. And I definitely had no idea my stylist was about to become the one person who noticed everything. I missed because I stayed distracted. I arrived at Style House Salon exactly on time at 4:00 p.m. like always before. I parked in the tight little lot behind the building just like I usually did routinely. The salon felt fairly busy with that late afternoon crowd milling around. Several stylists were already working with various clients. Light background music played softly with blow dryers and friendly chatter blending into that familiar, relaxing salon environment I loved. Nay greeted me warmly with a smile and a hug before leading me back to her station near the back. Her chair was angled so I faced a large mirror reflecting most of the salon behind, including both entrance area and the small waiting lounge near the door. We talked about what I wanted done today and settled on doing a partial highlight refresh and a trim to clean up my ends. Na mixed my color and began sectioning hair, placing foils with those quick practiced movements earned from many years' experience. We eased into our normal, comfortable conversation rhythm. I told her about my chaotic, stressful week, the indecisive client constantly changing her mind about the kind of house she wanted to buy, and my thoughts about driving to see parents that weekend if time allowed after my showings. About 20 minutes into the appointment, while Na was working on foils, a man walked inside the salon unexpectedly then. I saw him reflected in the mirror briefly, just a quick glance, the kind of noticing you have when someone enters a shared space. He looked like a white guy, mid-30s, wearing jeans and a darker jacket with average build. Nothing about him seemed memorable or remotely concerning. He approached the reception desk and asked something, then moved to the waiting area to sit. He pulled out his phone and stared downward as if checking messages or scrolling through feeds. I didn't think anything strange about it initially. Salons always had people coming and going constantly, waiting for appointments or picking someone up casually. But I noticed then that Na had gone completely still, all suddenly. She held a foil and a section gently, but her hands froze mid-motion. As she stared directly into the mirror, locking onto the reflection of the man seated in the waiting area. The pause lasted only maybe 5-10 seconds before she continued again. But something felt completely different in her demeanor. Her movements turned noticeably tense and almost mechanical, like she was forcing herself to keep working while her mind drifted somewhere worried and distant. Then Na leaned down slightly, bringing her mouth close to my ear, and whispered so softly I nearly missed it. "Don't turn around now. Don't react to anything I'm about to say. Just act like everything is entirely normal here, and we're having another regular conversation about hair." My stomach tightened instantly as anxiety rushed upward. Something felt deeply wrong. I met Na's eyes in the mirror and saw real, genuine fear hiding behind her professional expression. Despite her efforts, "What's wrong?" I whispered, trying to keep steady while maintaining a neutral expression on my face. Na kept working calmly, applying another careful foil, maintaining the illusion of a typical quiet appointment. But her voice tightened when she finally answered. "That man who just walked in and sat down in the waiting area wearing the dark jacket and holding his phone. Do you know him?" I glanced at his reflection carefully, without moving too obviously or abruptly. He was still sitting quietly with head down, acting absorbed in whatever was on his phone. "No, I have never seen him in my life before this moment." "Why? What is happening?" Na's hands trembled slightly as she sectioned another piece of my hair. "He's been here before," she whispered, while working 3 different times in the past 3 weeks. "He never makes appointments, never asks for services. He just walks inside, looks around the salon for a minute quietly, then leaves without speaking." The first 2 times I didn't think much, assuming maybe he was checking prices or looking for someone or confused about where he needed to be at all. But the third visit, which was last Thursday, I noticed something unsettling. He walked in, looked around slowly, and then his eyes stopped directly on you while seated in my chair quietly. He stared at you for about 10 seconds, then immediately turned around and left without speaking. It was strange enough that I remembered it. And today, when he walked in again, now he did the exact same routine again precisely. He looked around until he spotted your reflection. Now he's sitting there pretending to check phone while watching you carefully in the mirror constantly. I felt icy fear crawl through my body. My hands gripped tightly onto the styling chair. I looked at the reflection again, and now that N.A. pointed it out, I could see what she meant clearly. His phone rested loosely in his hands, but his eyes kept flicking up toward the mirror, not glancing around randomly, but looking specifically at me. He was watching me. My voice came shaky when I whispered back to N.A., asking quietly, "Are you absolutely sure? Maybe he's just waiting for someone and happens to look this way." But even saying that, I knew I was trying hard to rationalize something feeling dangerously wrong. Na shook her head very slightly while continuing to work with steady movement, maintaining the appearance that everything was normal. "I'm sure," she whispered. "And there's something else I need to tell you about last week. After your appointment ended, I took my break outside in the alley behind the building where we all usually park. I saw him again. He stood beside a dark blue sedan watching you walk to your car without approaching you. He didn't call out or move toward you. He just stood watching until you entered your car and drove away. Then he got in his own car immediately and followed the same direction. You had gone. The fear inside me burst into full panic. Someone had been watching, following, studying my routines. Why didn't you tell me last week when you saw him then?" Na's voice was apologetic, but steady and firm because she wasn't completely sure what she witnessed and worried she misread the strange pattern happening. She thought maybe she was being overly paranoid or reading far too much into these coincidences. But him being here again today, repeating everything, sitting there, watching you again with that focus? I know something is seriously wrong right now. We need to act quickly this very moment. But we absolutely cannot let him realize anything. Not that we noticed. Not that we understand what he might be planning or working toward. I forced myself breathing slow, controlled, steady breaths, trying to stay calm and maintain a neutral expression that looked natural. In the mirror, I studied the man again more carefully this time. He looked completely ordinary, so painfully unremarkable overall. That made it even more terrifying to comprehend. He could be anyone, blending into any gathering without drawing attention ever. "What should we do?" I whispered softly, trembling. Nina stayed silent briefly, still applying delicate foils with hands that trembled just slightly under strain. "I'll finish this section of color first so nothing appears suspicious to him if he's watching. Then I'm going to walk to the reception desk, like grabbing supplies or checking appointments, and I'll quietly tell the receptionist to immediately call 911. You're staying right here in this exact chair. Don't get up now. Don't try to leave. And absolutely don't go anywhere completely alone now. Yes, there's a back exit leading to parking, but you won't use it because we don't know if someone else might be waiting outside. You're staying here until police arrive safely." I nodded, slightly trembling, my heart pounding violently, feeling it in my throat with every beat. Na applied to more foils, slowly taking time, keeping everything looking completely routine, exactly as usual. But before she could move toward the reception desk, the man abruptly stood up, suddenly, silently. My breath caught instantly as I watched his reflection move in mirror, walking toward the exit. Relief began flooding me. He was leaving now. Maybe Na was mistaken. Maybe this was weird coincidence and nothing dangerous. But then he stopped right at the door. He stopped, then turned around, slowly, deliberately chilling. He looked directly toward the mirror, staring sharply straight at my reflection. Our eyes met instantly in that glass surface, and he smiled unsettlingly. It wasn't friendly whatsoever, nor embarrassed or nervous like someone caught staring. It was cold, calculated, and disturbingly deliberate knowing. Then he pulled out his phone, lifting it, and I watched terrified as he took photographs of me sitting there in the salon chair with foils in hair as if documenting something. Like I was, becoming part of some collection he had been building. Then he turned around and walked out slowly, the door closing gently behind him with chime. The entire salon froze. Na dropped the foil she had been holding and rushed immediately forward toward the reception desk. I saw her speaking urgently to the receptionist, her hands moving quickly, gestures sharp with panic asterisk. The receptionist's eyes widened instantly, and she reached for the phone before rapidly dialing out for help. Other clients nearby sensed that something felt wrong now. All conversation faded immediately. People stared at Nina, at me, at the doorway where that man had just disappeared. Nina returned to me, her expression pale, yet her posture absolutely determined. "She's calling the police right now," she whispered. "They'll arrive as fast as they possibly can." I got his license plate number written down every single time I've noticed his vehicle parked here before in silence. I was trembling uncontrollably then, the truth of everything crashing through me like cold waves rolling endlessly. "Nina, I need to tell you something important. For the last 3 weeks, maybe even longer, I've felt like someone was watching me closely sometimes. Not every moment, but sometimes when I left a house showing alone, or unlocked my car, or walked into restaurants, there was this uncomfortable prickling sensation on the back of my neck. I kept convincing myself I was simply paranoid, just stressed, from work and spending too much time alone inside empty houses echoing with silence. But what if I wasn't imagining it anymore? What if he'd been following me throughout everything, and some instinctive part of me already knew?" Nina pulled a small stool closer beside me, placing her steady hand gently onto my arm. "Trust those internal instincts. They're your mind catching things before you consciously process them completely," she said softly, but firmly. "Has anything unusual happened lately within these weeks? Any strange phone calls? Odd messages by chance? People at properties seeming off or unsettling somehow?" I concentrated, searching through the past weeks quickly. Then something abruptly clicked. Yes, about 2 weeks ago, I had scheduled a private showing alone at a Brentwood property. It was supposed to be one potential buyer who'd contacted our agency directly through the website. I drove all the way out to Brentwood, unlocked the quiet house, waited nearly 30 minutes, but nobody arrived at all. When I called the number they provided, it was already disconnected. At the time, I assumed they were flaky, or maybe they'd simply changed their mind abruptly. But what if that person was actually him? What if he'd been trying to get me isolated alone inside an empty house far away? Nina's face turned even paler as realization hit. That is exactly what he was attempting earlier, testing whether he could corner you somewhere isolated. The receptionist walked over, her expression serious now. "Police are on their way. They warned us to stay inside here, lock every door tightly, and make sure absolutely no one leaves before they arrive for safety." Nina instantly stood up and moved toward the front entrance of the salon, locking the door, flipping the sign closed for emergency procedures immediately, then pulling the shade down across the glass. The other stylists started watching nervously, several asking what exactly was happening. Nina addressed the whole salon, her voice steady, though fear was visible shimmering behind her eyes. "Everyone, we have a safety situation right now. Man was inside acting suspicious and potentially following one of our clients around repeatedly before. We have contacted police and they're heading here. No one should leave until officers arrive safely. If anyone recognized that man or has previously seen him nearby, please tell me immediately right now, without hesitation, please." One stylist named Jade, a young woman sporting bright purple-colored hair, raised her hand slowly. Was he wearing a dark jacket with jeans, brown hair, average height, and somewhat forgettable features? Nina nodded very quickly. "Yes, exactly. Have you seen that same man before anywhere around here? Jade looked visibly sick. He came inside about 2 weeks earlier when I was managing the front desk during lunch. He walked up and asked if you worked here, Nina, using your name specifically. And directly. I thought he wanted to book an appointment with you personally, so I said yes and asked what time preference he wanted to schedule. He said no, just wanted confirmation that you worked here and what days you usually worked. Then he asked what time your last appointment typically ended every day. I told him you've usually booked until 5 or 6 p.m. depending on whichever day it happened to be scheduled. He thanked me and left quietly afterward alone. Thought it was strange, but assumed maybe he planned surprising someone with a gift certificate. The entire room went silent instantly around us. My stomach twisted sharply. He wasn't tracking. Nina, I whispered under my breath, softly but firmly. He was tracking my appointments specifically with Nina. He figured out my schedule just using the salon and its routines. He knows I come here every 6 weeks on Thursday afternoons consistently. Nana's hand tightened immediately against my shoulder gently. But he doesn't know that we figured out exactly what he's doing, and you're safe here right now with everyone. The police are almost here, arriving any moment. Police arrived within 7 minutes, 2 patrol officers walking in with serious expressions and taking notes. They immediately started taking statements from every witness. I told them everything the week's feeling watched. The failed Brentwood showing, the unease I dismissed as simple work stress. Nina explained seeing the man repeatedly at the salon, watching him follow me to my car, the stare he gave, and taking my photo openly earlier today. Jade added her story about him asking specifically for Nina's detailed schedule. The officers wrote down every detail we gave and asked for clearer descriptions of the man and everything we remembered. Nina provided the license plate number she'd written down during his visits. One officer stepped outside to check the area while the other remained inside speaking with us. After around 15 minutes, the outside officer returned, spoke quietly with his partner before approaching me. Ms. Ashford, we ran the plate number your stylist provided earlier today. The vehicle is registered to a Marcus Duval. Does that name mean anything to you personally? I shook my head slowly, completely confused, saying, no, I've never heard that name before, ever. The officers exchanged a look that made my blood run cold instantly. Marcus Duval was released from prison 8 months ago after serving 6 years for stalking and assaulting a young woman. His victim was a real estate agent previously working in metropolitan Atlanta. He's been violating parole. For the past 3 weeks, we've been actively searching for him already. The room started spinning as panic overwhelmed me. I grabbed the arm of the styling chair to steady myself there. He's done this before. He attacked someone doing the same job previously that I do now. The officer nodded grimly. Yes, and based on everything you've told us about the failed showing, and his pattern repeated, we believe he planned to do this again. Detectives are on their way now to assist. We need you staying here while we coordinate with other responding units. Is there anywhere else you can stay tonight besides your personal home? We don't know what information he has gathered about you specifically yet, and we don't want you going anywhere familiar he might already know. Within 2 full hours, the salon became the center of an active criminal investigation immediately underway. Detectives arrived carrying laptops and files, interviewing everyone who'd been inside earlier. They showed me photos on their computer screen asking whether I recognized any face shown there. The third photo made me feel instantly nauseous. It was the same man from the salon. Marcus Duval, but far younger, in an old mugshot from years earlier during incarceration days. We found him, Detective Harrison said, after stepping aside to take a phone call quietly there. He's been staying at an extended stay motel outside the city limits, paying cash under another fake name to hide. We executed a search warrant on his motel room around 30 minutes ago earlier this evening. What they found inside that small motel room still gives me nightmares. Marcus had been documenting my entire daily life. There were printed photos of me leaving my condo building routinely every day, walking into my office, showing properties to clients, eating meals at restaurants. He had printed copies of my professional bio and headshots sourced from my agency's official website. He had a detailed list of properties I'd shown recently with addresses and exact showing times. He had pages filled with handwritten notes about my routine, including Thursday 4 p.m. hair appointment. Style House Salon stylist Nina Castillo listed clearly there. Asterisk. The detective showed me photos of gathered evidence they'd collected earlier today, and my hands wouldn't stop trembling despite everything. We also uncovered additional proof of multiple fraudulent showing requests he submitted through your agency's website, Detective Harrison explained calmly. He used different identities and various fake emails, trying to arrange private appointments with you alone at vacant, isolated properties. Your agency screening system caught most suspicious requests because the details looked inconsistent, strange, or incomplete. But one slipped through the Brentwood showing scheduled 2 full weeks ago, where nobody ever arrived. That was him testing if he could isolate you completely without witnesses. Marcus Duval was arrested and formally charged with stalking, parole violations, and attempted kidnapping immediately afterward. The growing evidence was so overwhelming and damning that nothing could refute what investigators had uncovered. His previous conviction involving assaulting a real estate agent in Atlanta years earlier, combined with everything found inside his motel room, plus testimony from Nina and others present, built a case prosecutors knew his attorneys couldn't possibly challenge or break. At his trial 7 months later, I testified. I sat inside that courtroom describing those weeks of feeling constantly watched. The uneasy tension dismissed, and the terror realizing someone had been planning to harm me deliberately. Na testified as well, explaining how she'd noticed Marcus returning repeatedly inside the salon, watching me, how she'd trusted instincts strongly enough to intervene. The prosecutor labeled Nina a genuine hero immediately. The presiding judge agreed. Marcus Duval was sentenced to 18 long years in prison without hesitation. When the final verdict was read aloud, I cried right there openly. Not just from relief, but from thinking about how close I'd come to being his second victim, exactly like before. If Nina hadn't observed everything so attentively before, if she hadn't remembered seeing his presence earlier, if she'd talked herself out of speaking up because she feared appearing paranoid or overly dramatic, I would have walked straight into one trap. The detective later explained that based on Marcus's notes and behavioral patterns, they believed he would have made his attempt within the coming week at one of those fake scheduled showings again. My entire life changed completely after that incident. My real estate agency implemented new strict safety protocols for all agents, mandatory check-ins surrounding showings, buddy systems for isolated properties, improved appointment screening, and required GPS tracking during working hours daily. I now automatically share my live location with my sister Maya and my friend Jordan whenever I'm out showing properties. I take self-defense classes twice each week consistently. I carry pepper spray. I vary daily routines and avoid predictable patterns or visiting the same places at fixed times. But the biggest transformation was learning to trust my instincts completely again. For weeks, I'd felt like something was wrong, like someone was constantly watching me from somewhere. And I'd rationalized everything as job stress or paranoia creeping into life. Asterisk, I've realized that those instincts are your mind interpreting threats before your logic understands danger. Now, whenever something feels wrong, I pause and truly listen. My bond with Nina shifted from business only to something meaningful. She protected my life simply by noticing patterns I ignored. We've become genuine friends now, meeting weekly for warm coffees, sharing celebrations during winter holidays, supporting each other through everything. I recommend her to clients, always mentioning the remarkable stylist who saw what I missed. Nina says she only observed her surroundings like she always does, but I recognize deeper courage. She trusted her instincts immediately, even when doubt would have silenced another person into quiet hesitation. Accepting the aftermath was hardest. Realizing many others noticed Marcus yet said nothing out of uncertainty. A guard at my building told officers he'd seen Marcus lingering repeatedly near the parking area, but assumed he lived there. A coworker at my office remembered him standing in reception staring too long at photos but thought he was browsing. A barista at my cafe vaguely recalled his silent presence near the door watching customers. All these small, separate sightings formed a pattern nobody voiced. Oh, yeah. That silence nearly cost everything. Not because Marcus was invisible, but because people ignored intuition and distrusted their own awareness. Now I regularly speak publicly to agents and solo professionals, sharing my detailed experience openly. Teaching safety habits and awareness. I highlight subtle warning signals I once excused as anxiety. And the importance of trusting the quiet internal voice, whispering that something feels deeply wrong. I encourage building simple connections with people in your routine because they notice repeating patterns you might overlook entirely yourself. And I praise Nina constantly as someone who acted perfectly. She observed details without assumptions. She remembered crucial repeating behaviors. She trusted her sharp instincts, and she stepped in bravely. Her actions directly saved me. Here's what I need everyone listening now to truly understand. The people you encounter daily, even those not close friends, might recognize threats around you long before you ever do. Your stylist or your barista, your mail carrier delivering packages, the security guard on duty. They see patterns and disruptions. Listen when they express concern, take them seriously without hesitation. Nina wasn't family or intimate. She was someone I visited once every few passing weeks, yet she noticed crucial details and acted before harm happened. If you work completely alone, meet unfamiliar people frequently, or follow predictable public routines, you must take extra precautions. Change your schedule when possible. Screen all potential clients thoroughly. Tell trusted people your plans. Share your location. When working, build real relationships with regulars because they may detect danger far sooner than you can. And most importantly, remember this: trust your instincts without negotiation. When something feels strangely off, it almost always means something. Don't convince yourself otherwise ever. Don't fear appearing overly cautious. Your safety outweighs social comfort. If this story changed anything about how you think safety, hit subscribe and share thoughts. We need more people like Nina, people who stay aware, who notice the subtle shifts, who speak up with courage even when they may misjudge. Thank you all for watching. Please protect and support each other. The one who saves you might be barely an acquaintance who simply cared enough to notice.